Yes, yeah. Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today's daf is daf Ayin Vav, the last daf in Avodah Zarah. Baruch sheheche yonu v'keimonu v'giyonu lazman hazeh. We start from Ayin Heyom at Beis, and it's approximately, let's see if I can get this right, based on approximation. It's, let's see. Oh. Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Rabba Baravua.
From the bottom, Rabbi?
So it's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23. 23 lines in the bottom. It's a little bit past the middle of the Amid. Maskif, Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Rabba Baravua. You got it? It's a little bit higher, a little bit higher.
Yeah,
you got it? Okay. Afilu, Omar Rav Nachman Baravua.
Lo shanu?
Lo shanu, yes. Lo shanu elu b'lekuchen. We're talking about tevilas kelim, that if you buy kelim from a goy, you have to toivel it. So Rav Nachman Rabbi says, lo shanu lekuchen, only if you buy it, the k'maisa shahaya. And like the maisa shahaya. What does the maisa shahaya mean? K'maisa shahaya means v'machemes midyan. Because the kelim were taken as booty from the midyanim, so memela, there was a kinyan gomer of Yisrael. They were mamish koine the kelim. Right? Avos she'ulin, but if you borrow a keli from a goy, loy, that's not chayiv and tefillah. Lama? Because that's not similar to the parsha of Klei Midyan. Klei Midyan, we acquired the kelim. We didn't just borrow it from the Midyanim. We got it from the Midyanim by force, and we were it. So that's also one of the criteria when you come to the halachas of tefillas kelim. So he bought Me'evet Kechav Mamona de Marda, a keli made of animal dung, Savarlat Bila. He wanted to be toivel a keli that's made from animal dung. Just like we Klei Midyan, we're only at Klei Matches. That was the only kelim they had, and on that the Torah says you have to toivel. So Mamela, if it's not Klei Matches, then it's not mechuyev in tvila. Omer Ravashi, hani klei zechuches. What about klei zechuches? You know, if you have glass, hoyel v'chin ishtabru yesh len takonam. Since when it breaks, you can put it back together. I didn't know that you can put glass back together, but apparently you could. Kechli matches dami. It's also dami to kli matches, and it's chayiv b'tvila. So the Gemara kunye. Shalom aleichem shol. What about a klicheres that is covered with lead? What about that kind of keli? You done it as a klicheres and it's potem tefillah. Since the cover, it's covered, it's plated with oifares. Yeah, that's also chayiv in tefillah. Hilchas a kesoifai. The halacha is kesoifai. Iboilu shaila mashkanta mai. What happens if a yid receives a keli from a goy for as a mashkin? Right? The guy owes him money, and the guy says, look, I'll give you a mashkin, I'll give you my beautiful china set, or whatever he gives him, right? Klei su'uda, and he says, you can use it if I don't pay you back. Omer Mar Ravashi, Abba, my father Ravashi, mashklei b'chavim kasa dechaspa. A guy gave him a silver becher as a mashkin, v'ad b'lei v'ishtabei, and he was toivel it, and he used it. V'lo yadana, and I'm not sure why my father used a becher that was given to him as a mashkin. Maybe he holds that mashkin is like a sale. So when the guy gives a yid a mashkin, now the yid has to kasher it, he has to toivel it because like a sale. Or maybe because he knew that the guy's never going to pay him back and the mashkin is going to be his forever. So he already treated it as like it's his and he was toivel it. So he's not sure if his father Ravashi was toivel it because the halacha is that a mashkin you have to toivel because vinidamya, or because the guy wasn't going to pay back anyway, so Mameli treated it like it's already his. Tonu Rabbanan. Pesach, we're up to Tonu Rabbanan. How many lines in the bottom is that? 2 dots. It's a line around 10 lines in the bottom. Tonu Rabbanan. Somebody who buys klei suda from a guy. Dvarim sheloi nishtamish ben. Anything that the guy never used, matbil levent and you don't need to kasher it. You just are toivel it, and that's it. It's good to go. Dvarim shenishtamid etzainin. It's still in the box. You could see the sticker's still on. You know, you could see it's mamish brand new. What about dvarim sheshtam b'leitzainen? What if it's dvarim, it's kalim that is only usually used aydeitzainen? It's not used with heat or cooking. Kagon kaises v'ketoinias, right? Either cups or jugs or tzloichias, medichan and madbilan and tahirin. So there, you just rinse it and then you toivel it, and then it's tahir. Which means the order is, you first kasher it, and then you toivel it, right? What about dvarim shenishtamesh ben aydei chamin? What if he used it for treif before he sold it to you? Used it al yedei chamin for treif. K'gana yoyrois, hakom kamusin, machame chamin, all those pots and pans, magilan, matvilan, and tahirin. That's also you have to do hagala, kabbalah kach poltoi, and then you're toivel, and then it's tahir. Dvarim sheshtam al ur. But what if you have kalim that came in direct contact with fire? K'gana shapudin, the skewers, vaskaloyis, and the grates. Malabnon, barur, matvilan, and tahirin. And Madbil and Tahirin. A big to do in the Poskim, big machlikas Poskim over here. From the Brisa, it sounds like that whenever you have to do both, you have to do Hagola and then Tvilas Kalim because you bought it from a guy. Which one comes first? It's very clear from the Brisa that first you have to kasher it. You have to kasher it and then you toivel it, right? And some of the Poskim use the Lashon that if you do it the other way around, if first, let's say, you toivel it and then you kasher it afterwards, it's ketoivel v'sheretz biyadai. It's like you're toiveling and the bliyas shel Isser are still there in the pots and pans. Avada, it's not going to work. But the Vilna Goyen and Shulchan Aruch Chabir Agra says that Avada you can be toivel it first, and even then afterwards you can kasher it. One is Tum and Tahara, the other is Isser V'Heter and Oshaychis. You can first do Tvila, and he proves it from a Gemara we're going to approach. We're going to learn in Mirz Hashem very soon. Let's see if you can chop it. So the Gemara. And if a Yid used it before Tvila or Agala, right? Tana Chada Aser. The Michael is Aser. V'tanya Idach Mutter. So Bidi Eved. If a Yid took the keli of a guy, he just bought a pot from a guy. He wasn't toivel it, he didn't kasher it. Now he wants to eat the food that he cooked in it. Is he allowed to eat it or not? We have a contradiction in Brises. So the Gemara says, like kasher, it's not a kasher. Also, the Brisa that says, but the Eved it's mutter to eat the food is because the Brisa says that any tam that's absorbed in the keli of the guy is already pogum, right? It doesn't taste. The flavor is ruining whatever food you're cooking in it because it's a pogum flavor, and mamela it's mutter. Yeah. If you want to gam aser, mutter. So it depends why you hold nois gam. It's aser or mutter. We saw it's machlekas actually tanoim. We saw earlier in Daf Samach Zayin. Rabbi Meir holds nois gam is aser, and Reb Shimon holds this gam is mutter. We paskin it's mutter.
The Tani Idach Mutter, is that a prior brisa or it says Tani Chad Aser?
Yeah, it's another brisa, different brisa.
It's not really
two different brises, yeah.
So when it says here at the end, the version between turns, so it's three opinions? I'm sorry, I'm just confused.
No. The first brisa, Tani Rabbanon, by the two dots, until the Tani Chad and Tani Idach is one brisa. It says that Tvila is not enough if the guy used it. It depends how the guy used it, and you have to kasher it first, and then you toivel it. Right. Now, the Gemara brings another brisa. This is V'kulan shenishtamesh b'nachshli yabshli yabin tani chada aser v'tanya yidach mutter. We have a contradiction in brises when it comes to the halacha of a yid who wasn't toivel it, it wasn't magal it, he didn't kasher it. What can you do with the food? Right. I mean, it could be it's part of that brisa, but either way, it's a machlikas tanoim. It seems like whether it's mutter to eat the food in a guy's pot that you bought and you weren't kasher, didn't kasher, and you weren't toivel. So the Gemara says that would depend on machlikas whether nois nam of gam os or nois nam of gam mutter. Man domer nois nam of gam mutter, and if you hold nois nam of gam as mutter, giula edcham de os rachmonech mishkachasla. If anyways, whatever flavor is absorbed in the pot is pogum, so why did the Torah require hechsher kelim altogether? If I'm allowed to eat food that was cooked in a goyish pot because it's nice and tam gam, so anyways, it should always be mutter. Why do I have to toivel it? Why do I have to be magal? Why do I have to kasher it to begin with? Why is the Torah required to kasher it? The Torah only asert kedera bas yoima the lav nice and tam gamu. So even by Klei Midian, when we won the war against the Midianites, and the Torah says, Kol asher yovoy be'esh, taviru be'esh, right? You have to kasher the kelim. That's the only kelim that the goyim used that day. Because then the flavor isn't ruined yet. It's not nice and tam gam, it's fresh. But any flavor that was used the previous day, that's already nice and tam gam, mikav elech lishterei. Yeah, that would be mutter. Yeah, so ibazoi lahalacha, why aren't we matter a keli that you buy from a goy if you know the goy didn't use it within 24 hours? Says the Gemara, no, you know why? Because that's already gzeira derabana. Gzeira kedera sheina bas yoima, mishim kedera bas yoima. It's a gzeira kedera sheina bas yoima. We don't want you to come confuse Ain't a bas yomi with bas yomi, and therefore it always needs libun. It always needs agala. The idach and the other brayz that says nis tam legam oser, he says kederi bas yomi nama mifkem pagma. He holds that even a kederi bas yomi has some flavor that's ruined. It's not like it's magic. After 24 hours, when the guy uses it, all of a sudden it becomes ruined. Oh, now it's pagam. The pagam happens incrementally. It happens slowly, right? As soon as the guy finishes using the keli, slowly but surely the flavor that's absorbed in the pot becomes pagam. And it becomes more and more and more pagam. So that Tana holds that if you see that the Torah required hechsher kelim right after they used it, hagam it's already somewhat pagam. So you see, no stam gam is not a heter. Okay, so the Gemara. We're up to the fourth line from the top of Ayin Vav, Amid Aleph. Rami le Rav Amram le Rav Sheshes. Now we get into a tremendous sugi over here. With basically, just to summarize the next blot, the last blot really is one kasha and 4 terutzim. Okay, let's see the kasha. Rami le Rav Amram le Rav Sheshes. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Hashapudin vo askala. Any kalim that come in direct contact with fire, like the skewers and the grates, malabna ba'ur, you have to do liban in order to extract the flavor, the tame iser. Vatnan asks the Gemara, we learned in the Mishnah, Gabe Kachem, it's a Mishnah Zvachim, Hashapud va'askela magilon bechamin, that if you want to use kalim that you cooked kachem in the day before, or you roasted kachem in it, Hashapud va'askela, or kalim that comes in direct contact with fire, all you got to do is magilon bechamin. You do agala and chamin. You don't need libun. Asks the Gemara, asks Rav Amram to Rav Sheshes, mamish a contradiction in two Mishnayos. Mishnayos in Avodah Zarah says whatever comes in direct contact with fire needs libun, and the Mishnah in Zvachim by Kachem says that it doesn't need libun, agala is enough. So it's a contradiction. Amalei Rav Amram bri. My son Amram wasn't his son; it was a Talmud. He called him son. B'lashon ma inyan Kachem etzel gula of the kachavim. What does Kachem have to do with gula of the kachavim? What else dazu Kachem to Avodah Zarah to Nezikin? Over there, when the blias went into the keli by kachem, at the time it wasn't nicer yet, right? At the time that you cook the shlomim, hashlomim nechel, the shnai yomim v'layla echad, right? So you're cooking it still within the time frame that you're allowed to eat that shlomim. So when the blias happened by the kachem, it was heter. It was heter. So memela it's a teira bala, so we could be more lenient. But over here, it's iser. So therefore, if it came in through Zeo, Dvar Mutar, it only became Aser afterwards. Asur. Zeo. Omar Rava says, Soif ki kapolit, Esura kapolit. What do you mean? Very nice that when the time got absorbed, it was heter still. But Lamaisa, right now, when you want to take it out, it's Isser. So why should there be a difference? What it was at the point of entry. Right now, when you're trying to get it out, it's already Isser. So why should there be a difference between Agola and Libun? You should need Kebola Kach Paltai. Elo Rava. So Rava says, no, I have a different teretz. My Agola Nami. You want to know what Agola is? Really, it's Shtifa Umarika. It's Shtifa Umarika. It means you
rinse and scour.
You rinse and
Scour.
And what's that word?
Scour.
Scour. What does that mean?
Scouring. You rub it well or with severe.
זה רק מריקה בשטיפה, זה רק לקדש.
You're right.
זה לא גם המשנה שלנו.
So Avodah, that Mishnah requires Libun also.
גם ליבון also, yeah.
But what we mean by Agol is an additional Shtifa Marika.
זה בשביל קדש.
Amar le Abaye, so Abaye said, "Mi dummy."
I don't understand.
He says, "No, Hagolah doesn't mean that you could just be Magalat Bechamin and that's enough by Kachem. Avad Kachem also needs Libun because it touched fire. It came in direct contact with fire. What is Hagolah Bechamin? It just means, in addition to that, just make sure rinse it off afterwards. Wash it off with Shtifa Marika."
מריקה זה לשפשף.
Yeah.
The fire gets rid of the blias, right?
Right. If a touch came to their contact with fire, it gets rid of the blias through fire. Only
On
Abaye
top of Libun.
on top of Liban. Right. That's the teretz. Only Abaye mi dummy. What do you mean? How could you compare Hagolah to Marika Shtifa? If the Mishnah says Hagolah, you're going to tell me it means Marika Shtifa. The Mishnah means what it says and says what it means. If it says Hagolah, Hagolah is Bechamin. Marika Shtifa is Betzainen. So Abaye says you can't say Marika Shtifa. Hagolah is Marika Shtifa. Hagolah is the hot water. Marika Shtifa is the cold water. Elom Abaye. So Abaye is Matzia, another teretz. Yagid olav reyoi. Yeah, we know there's a klal in Shas. Divrei Torah, aniyim b'mokem echad, v'ashirim b'mokem acher. Right? You could learn Avodah Zarah, and you could learn a klal about Chveis, about Kachem. You could learn Kachem, you could learn a klal about Avodah Zarah, about Nezikin. Right? Yeah, that's why you have to know Kala Terakula. Right? There's no index. Yeah, it would be amazing if you had an index in Torah, and any issue that comes up, you know where to look, and it gives you the entire. It doesn't work that way. That's why you go to Gedolim and people are Bekiyim and Shas. You have any Shaila, you have to know Kala Terakula, because Yagid Olav Reya, the Klal Abai is saying is that you could learn Avodah Zarah and not know the full halacha. You have to learn Kachem to know the full halacha, and vice versa as well. So the Gemara says like this: Tana Hacha Libun V'hu Adin Hagala. Over here we say Libun by Avodah Zarah. When you buy a keli from a goy, it says that you need to do libun on any kelim that came in direct contact with fire. V'hu adin hagala, but it also, in addition to that, needs hagala. Tana hasam hagala, and over there by Kachem, when you want to use the shvoid and the askala, it says hagala. V'hu adin libun. If you learn Avodah Zarah, you know it needs both. So each Mishnah in different zdarim and shas is megala on the other, that essentially you need both. You need libun and hagala for Avodah Zarah, for kelim shel nachrim. You need libun and hagala for kelim of kachem. You need both. That's it. So Abaye has the unique opinion that if you use a shvoid va'askala and it absorbs some isser, it's not just enough to do libun. You need libun plus hagala. And that's why the Mishnah in Zvachem that teaches hagala means hagala in addition to libun, and the Mishnah of Avodah Zarah says libun in addition to hagala. That's Yagadol of Reya. Amalei Rava. So Rava says,
what happens with each of the two? What happens with each of the two? Libun and
you do libun and hagala. You need both.
What is it? What happens?
Okay, yeah, libun means you put it into direct contact with fire. Hagala means then you have to dip it into hot water. Let's learn both steps in one Mishnah. At least one Mishnah should include both steps. Either learn Avodah Zarah by Kelim Shel Nachrim, learn libun and hagala, and then you can tell me one by Kachem, and then you'll reference Avodah Zarah, Daf Ayin Heyam in the Mishnah, and then you'll know what hagala means. Hagala is just a reference for libun and hagala, right? But you have to at least mention both steps in at least one place in Shas. Yeah, and then you can learn another one, just one of them in a different Mishnah, and then I'll know from that reference to look at Avodah Zarah where you need both. In other words, Rava doesn't like that you're teaching me a half a halacha here and a half a halacha there. Rav is saying, if you want the Yagadol of Reya, the concept of the Yagadol of Reya just means, you teach me one full halacha here, and I'll know to apply it somewhere else, but you have to tell me both steps in one place at least, and then, if you tell me a half a step somewhere else, I'll already know from here that you need both. But you can't split up half and half. That's not the way it works. Elam Rava, so Rava answers another teretz. So Rava, Hainu Tamayu, K'Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba, Baravua. So Rava says, the Omar, he says, he quotes Rabbi Baravua, that says, Kol yoim v'yoim nasa gio lachaveiroi. Every day, right, the kelim in the Beis HaMikdash, they use the kelim every single day, multiple times. Yeah, the same keli was used to cook, whatever, timim vashel, the basar kachem, basar chatas, for kahanim, basar shlomim, even for the bailim, right? Kachem kedushin, kachem kalim. Okay, so they use the same keli over and over again. So here is what happens. When you have a keli that, for example, you use for shlomim, right? So shlomim can be eaten for 2 days. So when you use it a second time, after you use it for shlomim, use it a second time. So now the second time that you cook in that pot, that cooking is pilot extracts all the blias from the first shlomim that you cooked in there. So it never becomes nicer. It never has a chance. The blias from the first shlomim never has a chance to become nicer because the second time you cook, that already extracts the blias from the first cooking. And then so on and so forth. As kol yoim v'yoim nasagil l'chaveiroi, you keep extracting the blias with every cooking from the previous carbon, and it never reaches a point where it becomes nicer. Says the Gemara, Tenach. I understand shlomim to kivin l'shnei yomim achli can be eaten for 2 days with carbon and have a nicer kavagil. So therefore, before it can even become nicer, it's already nigal. It's already extracted because you did hagala. Elo chatos, but what about chatos? Kivin l'yoyim v'layla mesachla. Since a chatos can only be eaten for 1 day and 1 night, kimavashel ba'idna chatos. When you cook Monday morning, when you cook on Monday a chatos, kumto is that the next day have a nicer. Any time that's extracted from that pot that you cooked chatasin on Monday, by Tuesday, whatever's extracted is already nicer because you only have Yom, the day of Monday, and Laila, right? And that night. But the next day it's already nicer. So whatever you cook the next day in that same pot, kapolat nicer, the chatas de idna, bechatas shlamim de lamachar, because it'll be extracted. Whatever chatas, the noiser, the chatas, the idna, bechatas shlamim de lamachar, the chatas, the noiser and chatas idna, which means Monday, will be extracted and go into the chatas and shlamim of Tuesday. So Mamela, it's very nice if you're telling me that you're cooking a shlomim only has 2 days, so you cook Monday a carbon shlomim. So Tuesday, whatever blias is in that pot is not noiser yet, and you cook Tuesday another shlomim. So by that time, before it became noiser, you extracted the blias of the shlomim from Monday. But if you cook on Monday a chatas, right? So by the time you cook Tuesday another carbon, it doesn't matter which carbon you cook, the blias are already noiser. So it's not going to help you. Of kol yom v'yom nasagiu l'chaveiroi. Says the Gemara, Amri, you're right. Lo tzricham. This heter can only work if the mechivashal ba'chatas idna, when you cook a chatas on Monday, hader mevashal ba'idna shlamim. Right away, that same day, you're cooking a shlamim afterwards. So when you cook a shlamim in the same day as you cook a chatas, so all the blias from the chatas on Monday that get extracted are not noiser yet. They're not noiser. Why not? Because it's still the same day. You have a yom and a laila, so it's still the same day. So you cook a chatas Monday morning. Monday afternoon, you cook a shlamim. And when you cook the shlomo Monday afternoon, it extracts the bliss from the chatas, which is not nicer yet, because it's still the same day. And now the chatas, the lemachar, shlomim, the esmoil, bahadi adodi kisholim zemnayu. So the chatas and the shlomim, the esmoil, bahadi adodi kisholim, what you call it, they finish. Yeah, the chatas, the lemachar, the chatas of Tuesday, and the shlomim, the esmol, the shlomim that you cooked Monday afternoon, they expire at the same time. There's no noiser at any given moment. And then you cook another shlomim on Tuesday afternoon, and so on and so forth. The kitzur ha'maisa, if you do it in this order, you'll never have a case where you have noiser of blias in a keli of kachin. And that's Rav's.
Why
That's
doesn't the chatas expire?
No, but before the chatas can expire,
One day.
you already cooked the shlomim. Right? Let's say Monday morning you cook chatas in the keli. Right? Okay, so now, the keli has blias of chatas. If you left it just like that until the next day, now the blias become nicer. So it's a problem. So the Gemara is saying, but if you cook a shlomim Monday afternoon, so the shlomim that you cook Monday afternoon will extract the blias from Monday morning, the chatas, right? So now there's no more blias of chatas Monday morning. So now you cook another chatas tomorrow morning. Let's say in the mornings you cook chatos, and in the afternoon you cook shlomims. So you'll never reach a point in time where you have any nicer. That's it, because the chatas will extract so on and so forth. It'll work in a cycle.
But you don't actually did that. It's theoretical.
You're right. The Gemara says, "Lo tzricha," only the hetters only help in such a case. So maybe that's what they did in the
זה לא
Beis
איסור
Hamikdash.
של תלם וטהור, זה איסור של נוטה.
Right.
שלא תתיר למחרת היום.
Correct.
שלמים, אבל שלמים you have more.
You have 2 days and 1 night, right? Yeah. So that's why the shlomim is always in the afternoon. Chatas in the morning. Okay.
זה
So
לא כמו קדשים קלים שיש לך עד הלילה, רק אפילו לא יום, עד הלילה.
Miza shall.
קדשים קלים, כמו פסח.
As well. It's only.
קדשים קלים זה רק עד הלילה, עד חצות.
I can't wait to get to Kachim with you. That's Hashem.
But by Pesach, it's sweet.
It's on the Shvoid and the Askala, right? It's on that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no pots.
Right. What's really interesting is, I don't know if and nobody pointed this out yet, but I'm sure you guys must be thinking to yourselves, very nice, Kol Yom V'Yom Nasagiu Lachavera, but aren't we talking about Shvoid and Askala? Aren't we trying to answer the Mishnah in Kachin that talks about Shvoid and Askala? Shvoid and Askala, you need Libun. What do you mean? You're cooking here, cooking there. The whole cookach doesn't help you over here because you need Shvoid and Askala requires Libun. What is Rav's Teretz Bachlal? Right? Abaye says you need both, Liban and Hagol, Yagadol of Reya. Okay, I understand that. But according to Rav is saying that the Hagolah from the second carbon extracts the blias from the first carbon. That's only with Hagolah. But where do you see that? Where do you see that you need Liban over here? Right? The kasha was, how could Hagolah help for Shvoid and Askala? So Rav is answering, it's Hagolah because Kol Yom V'Yom Nasagiu Lachavera. But again, how did you answer the question? The question was, our Mishnah says Shvoid and Askala needs Libun. The Mishnah Kachim says Shvoid and Askala only need Hagolah. So Rav says, Kol Yom V'Yom Nasagiu Lachavera. Yeah, but where's the Libun? You need Libun. Yeah, this is mamish. That's the kasha, and yeah. So what do you say?
So those korbanos that you used the shpot yasklo for, you replaced once the former korban was used, so you replaced them with a new korban, right?
Right.
So when they went on the fire and they got red hot,
Okay.
so that did the Liban for the new, the Liban from the old mixed together with the new, so that but that's a parallel situation to the pot. Just like
No, he's talking about by boiling a second korban in there. That does that also does hagala.
No, I
The
know.
Liban is the heat, but the hagala
But
also
the
takes out the
Gold was
blias from the
asking
first korban.
about two things. One was the Liban,
Yeah.
one was the Hagala.
Right.
And how could we answer Liban when we said it's fine for Hagala, but not for Liban?
Right. Rava seems to just address Kol Yovim Nasagiu Lachaveiroi.
So why
Okay,
can't
but
they-
what about Libun? That was the kasha.
The next day's Korbanos that required Liban.
Right.
So they used those kalim from the day before the time was up for it to be nosar. So the new korbanos which were used for the old
In the old pots.
from not the pot, the shvud.
Yeah.
So that was used for the new korban.
Ah. So no, that applies to Liban also. You're
That
saying
applies
to Liban. You're saying that
Same-
Rava is just chapping on Agala.
Yeah, but it's the same idea applies also to the shvoid and the asker.
So that, in other words, the
Yeah.
same process applies to a shpud as to a kli. Shvud is the same
That's what
thing
the doctor wants to say.
Yeah, right.
That's what the doctor wants to say. Some seem to say a little bit different. Some
Yeah.
say that you don't eat Liban by kachim.
You do not.
No, but because you have the svar of kol yom v'yom nasagiu lachaveiroi, that's maklish the tama balua. That weakens the tama balua because you're using the same pat that you used for chatas in the morning, you're using it right away for the afternoon for a different carbon. So it's maklish the tama isser, and because of that, you don't bechlal need liban in such a case. That's what others want to say.
Would that function like hagala?
Huh?
Would that function like hagala? You know,
That would function like
like
hagala.
hagala. I'm asking.
It's a function like hagala, not liban, because
Yeah,
you're doing
yeah,
liban, right?
right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not exactly sure, but that's what some say. Okay, so why do you need hagala bachlal? Where's this kasha? Right? Why? It sounds like you need a separate hagala. Besides for the second cooking, you need another hagala. Why need a second hagala? Gemara says kasha. That's taka kasha. Rav Papa says the chiluk between ovdei kechavim and kachem is high kared v'high loy kared. Buy a guy when he sells you a keli. So whatever blias were in the keli that's kared, that became hardened already, so to speak, and it cannot come out through agala alone. You need mamish. If it's a shvoid, you mamish need to be malab in it. You need eish. High loy kared, but by kachem, because you use it constantly, it didn't harden, and therefore the blia is not hardened, and it's extracted with ease, even through hagala. That's why hagala is enough by kachim, because he constantly uses, so the blias are still liquid, so to speak. Ravashi says, la'olam kademor ma'ikara could be the teretz that I mentioned earlier is correct. Hoche teira bola, hoche sura bola. Over there, by kachim, it was nivla batam shel heter, before it became noiser. Hoche sura bola. Over here, it was nivla batam shel iser. The kekashlach, the beidin kapolit, sura kapolit, who cares what it was when it was nivla? Lamaisa, when you're trying to take it out, they're both asa. This is asa mishum noiser, and this is asa mishum treif. So what's the difference? So the Gemara says, beidna the kapolit le'isali sura be'ene. The difference is that when you're extracting the flavor of kachim, there is no kachim anymore. The iser is not around. Right? It's not, there was no Isser Be'en that was Nivla and the Tfanis. The Blias became Osir.
Yeah.
The Blias became Osir because at the time that it was Nivla, it was Mutter. It wasn't nicer yet. So because there was never Isser Be'en in this pot or on this Shvaid, right? It was never Isser Be'en. It was Mutter. All the whole time it was Mutter. Right? It only became Osir once it was Blias. So there, I guess it's a lot easier. It's not Isurah. Rashi's Lashon is, right? Rashi at the bottom over here, last 3 lines in Rashi. Lo chomer Isurah. It's not as chomer the Isser. Shekashanasa noiser, leve Isser be'en. Because it was Balua. And ma'olam lahukar Isurah, Rashi says. It was never Nikar the Isser, and therefore, even though it was absorbed through Eish, Hagala would be enough. Because when it was absorbed through Eish, it was mutter.
כתוב, הנותר יישרף, נכון?
Yeah.
הנותר יישרף. אז בליבון נשרף.
אבל פה לא צריכים ליבון. זה החידוש. פה לא צריכים ליבון. למה לא? גם שזה בלי של נויסר, eyes בלי של נויסר, המשנה בקודשם אומר, בזבוכם, הגולה is enough. Why is הגולה enough? Teretz is because at the time that it was absorbed in the pot, there was no isser, right? The meat that you cooked in that pot, or whatever you roasted on that skewer, right, was still mutter, because it was still within the time frame that you could eat the carbon. It was not nicer yet. So when did it become aser? It only became aser once you ate the meat already. The meat wasn't even around, right? It's just the blias. Only the blias became aser. The blias because not chomer surah.
בעגלה, הנותר יצא החוצה.
Bahagala, the noise, correct.
הנותר יצא החוצה.
But because the isser isn't so chomer, right? So even if you have a little bit,
אפשר לזרוק את המים האלה.
כן, אפשר להשתמש בשפוד, even if you only kasher it through agala. Because the isser isn't so chomer, so we allow you to use a lesser form, beshafud. Yeah, because there was never isser be'en. The isser only happened once they were blias. The chidush nefla. Yeah. What is that? It's not Kabbalah Kachpolta, right? The blias happened through direct contact with fire, and the pleta by kachim happened through agala. So how could that work? That was the Gemara's kasha. Chidush nifla. So the Gemara's machadish that whenever the blias happened, the isra on the blias happened when the be'en, when the meat wasn't anymore ba'olam, right? The whole chaloisa isra only happened on the blias. You know where you have that? By Pesach. Yeah, you sell your pots.
Yeah.
You don't. By the way, you don't sell your pots.
את החמץ בתוך הכלים.
Yeah. You say the chametz. By the way, you don't sell the pots
You can't.
to a guy. Otherwise, you have to toivel it
Yeah.
after Pesach. So what do you say? The contract and the Bechiras chametz says you sell the chametz in the pots. Now, by the way, if you check the pots, there's no chametz. What you mean is you're selling the blias of chametz in the pot,
Yeah.
right? In other words, the only chametz that you have is the blias, right? And before Pesach, it's not even us. The Isser is chal on blias, which is kind of what we're talking about over here.
So it's
The
before
Isser is
Pesach,
chal.
before Pesach, you can be a mavatal, those blias.
Oh, right. Before Pesach, bittul still works.
Right.
But bittul still works. But the point is that the chaloisa Isser happens on the blias only without any be'en present. And that's why it's easier to kasher, and you only need agola by kachim. Says the Gemara, Vatkalim alabnon, Amr Reb Mani Achetoshik Lipasan. When you do liban, how hot does it have to get before it becomes kosher? Says the Gemara, Achetoshik Lipasan, until you peel away the outer layer, because the heat peels away, it burns away the outer layer, which is really interesting. Because Rav Moshe Tshuva asks, and the Achroidim ask over here, what at kedei kach do you have to do liban until it burns away the outer layer?
In a metal
I
pot.
thought kabbalah kach paltoi. When you roasted with that skewer, you didn't keep it in the fire to the point where it burnt away the outer layer. So mehechatesa, that when you kasher it, says the Gemara, achetashek lipasan. It's not really kabbalah kach paltoi. It's unfair. You have to do more in the plata than the blia. Right? It's usually kabbalah kach paltoi. So Rav Moshe says that the emes is kabbalah kach paltoi is only a lumdus in hagala. Only by hagala do you say kabbalah kach paltoi. But by when you use a shvoid or an askala and it comes in direct contact with fire, the hechsher isn't mitam kabbalah kach paltoi. Because when you use fire, when it comes in direct contact with fire, it absorbs it so much that be'etzem there is no kabbalah kach paltoi. You can't take it out. The only hechsher is burn off a layer. That's what the Gemara says. Achetashik lipas, and you have to burn off the outer layer to kasher it. Okay, the Ketzad Magila. Now, what is Agala? Amravuna yoyrik tanam techirik doila. I don't know anybody here kasher is still kalim before Pesach. Yeah, you make a kasher lePesach. Sfardim do it.
Some people do it.
Clement do it. Okay, I see in Beis Yehuda sometimes out of Pesach where they have the big pots and people come and
A lot
kasher.
of people do that. Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
I thought today everybody has Pesach dishes, but okay, not so much.
They got a line. There's a line of cars waiting to do
Okay,
that.
so kachazeh, so we still use it. And where do they get the halachas from over here? Yoyre gedoyle betach yoyre ktana. You take a big pot and you warm it up and heat it up with water, and you take all the other pots and put it into that one. Yoyre gedoyle mai. Yeah, but yoyre gedoyle itself, Yeah, the Yoyde Gedoyle itself, how do you kasher? You can't put, at some point, it's going to be so big, you can't put it into another keli. So how are you going to kasher the Yoyde Gedoyle? Tashema says, the Gemara, I have a story for you. There was a dud. What's a dud? A dud shemesh. What's a dud? A dud is a big
pot,
a vat. What?
Yeah, big one.
A dude.
Big pot.
The Havabeit of Akavya, Rav Akavya bought it from a goy, and they needed to agol on it, and they couldn't fit it into any other keli. So what did they do?
Big, yeah.
They put some dough around the lip of the pot, the top of the pot. And they filled it up, mamish. They filled it up till the top with hot water, so it was able to overflow with even the lip of the pot, right? Was filled with hot water, and that's how they're able to kasher it. Rava said, Man milsa, who is as smart as Rav Akavya to be able to come up with such a patent? Ilav Rav Akavya, the guy with Rabu, if he wouldn't be an Adam Gadol, he wouldn't. He never thought of that. Only Adam Gadol can think of such a patent. Ksovar kabbalah kachpoltoy, because Agolas, the lumdus is kabbalah kachpoltoy. Ma bola benetzoitzes, av polta benetzoitzes. Just like when you cook isser in that gigantic pot, there are netzoitzes that overflow onto the lip of the pot. So therefore, the plate has to happen also on the lip of the pot. You have to put hot water there, so all the netzoitzes that were nivla in the lip of the pot can come out. And how do you keep hot water by the lip of the pot? I guess the butzek helped out, so the hot water should stay on the lip of the pot to take it out.
Raised up the edge of the pot.
Raised up the edge of the pot, yeah.
So the boiling water could touch the entire edge of the pot.
Correct.
If you didn't have the rim of dough, the water would still overflow and reach that. Right?
That's a great kasha. That's a great kasha.
Right.
Yeah. L'chayr would still overflow. It would still overflow. I'm assuming, it would be the same thing. It would be the same way, right? It would be however you cook overflows, this would also overflow the same way. Yeah.
I don't get how the rim helps. It keeps the water there. So
No, it just
The
allows it
butzek
to
around
fill
the
up all
rim.
the way.
Yes.
What-
The
what
It
butzek.
fills up. It allows to fill the pot completely to the very top with water.
Yes.
Why does the rim help for that? Why can't you just
Because the rim raises the edge of the pot. It's as if the rim was raises the edge of the pot.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, no, you're asking. I understand what you're asking. You're asking good. You have to be my eye on this. Okay, so weiter. Zug die Gemara weiter. Sakin shofa v'tahira. What do you do with a knife? The Mishnah answered. The Mishnah said. The last part of the Mishnah said that if you have a knife that you buy from a guy, what you got to do is you got to. What do you call that?
Thrust it.
You got to
Sharpen.
sharpen. What do you against a rock?
No,
What do you
right,
do
right,
that?
right.
The sharpening.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, v'tahira, and that's tar. And beside that, you have to stick it into the ground 10 times. Okay, Taisa says the Yerushalmi says 3 times. Lav dafka eser pa'amim, but a few times you have to put it into the ground.
So the two things that are happening.
Yes.
The ground is
Amar
basically,
Ravuna-
removing whatever's on the surface.
Amar
of the
Ravuna
lot.
bereid Rav Yeshua bekarka she'ein avud. It has to be a rough ground,
Right, yeah.
so that it takes off all the whatever sediments it has over there, all the shumah that it might have. Amar of Kahana ubesakin yofa she'ein bagumos. And this heter only applies to a sakin, a smooth sakin that doesn't have any. It's not serrated. Only a sakin yofa she'ein bagumos. But if it has gumos, it's serrated. So even if you stick it into the ground, it's not going to reach the indents. Right? It's not going to take off the indents because that's not going to be rubbing against the karka. Yeah, this only helps if you want to cut the knife with the knife. Tzainin. Only cold stuff. But if you want to use it for chamin, vada, you have to kasher it, right? You have to take out the blias. Okay, but tzainin it helps. Ki Yehuda mar Yehuda ubati bartuvi aviyasve kame de shvar malka. They sat in front of the king Shvar Malka. These two yidden, Mar Yehuda ubati bartuvi. Aisel kamayu esroiga. They brought an esrig for the melech for Shvar Malka. So pasak ochal. So the king took out his knife, his pocket knife, and he cut a piece of esrig for himself, and he ate it. Yeah, I'm assuming without a bracha. Yeah, pasuk v'havlei levati bartoivi, and then he cut another piece, and he handed it to Bati Bartoivi. Then before he cut the third piece, one for himself, the other for Bati Bartoivi, before he cut from Mar Yehuda, Hadar Dotza Asar Zimna Bara. Could be he was a very well learned king, right? He knew the halacha. He learned Masechtas Avodah Zarah. And what did he do? What he did was he stuck the knife and put it into the karka 10 times, like we just learned. Pasuk Havle Lamar Yehuda, and then he cut a piece for Mar Yehuda. And he gave him a piece, meaning he kashered the knife before he cut for Mar Yehuda. Omali Bati Bar Toivi.
He
So
cut for
Bati Bar
himself,
Toivi
he cut for
said,
himself, and
Vahu Gavra
then
Lav
he
Bar.
stabbed the knife, and then he cut for him. Right? Okay.
Yeah, Vahu Gavra Lav Bar Yisrael. Who this Yid is not a Ben Yisrael. Why did you do it for me as well? Bati Bar Toivi asked. You only do it for Mar Yehudach, but the Chaychet Yid. Why didn't you kasher it before you cut for me?
The residue prior to cutting the Esther.
Prior to cutting for me,
So
the king.
The residue worried about is from residue prior to him cutting the Esther, not from the Esther itself, because that was fine. Right?
It's prior, yeah. So Inez was already.
They already cut the first time for the Esther.
Right. But karka is much.
No,
אבל
what's
טוב,
he worried about?
היה
The residue
מודרני.
Yeah,
non-kosher that he
היה
used
מודרני.
Yeah,
before
beforehand,
the
yes.
Esther.
Yeah. So it might have been stuck. So you need a karka. Noyat sasarpam bekarka kosher.
מזרוחני.
Omar lei.
היה מזרוחני.
So the melech said to Shvoir, to Bati, Mar kimli begavei, umar loy kimli begavei. Yeah, Mar kimli begavei, loy begavei. Yeah, Achvei says he doesn't eat Isser, and I'm not so sure about. Achvei's nicht, I'm not sure. Ikadamri and others say, Omar lei the melech shvemaka said to Bati, Itker mai varat aborti. You remember what you did last night? So Rashi says, last Rashi in Avodah Zarah, Derech parsiim limser noshim achsanoim. Yeah, they send women to the people who stay by them. Right? So Rav Yudah knows Shemayim. He refrained. He said no, thank you, and you accepted the ladies. So Mamela, I know that you are not somebody who keeps halacha, and I find it so interesting that the last words in Masechet Avodah Zarah is. Itker mayavidata ba'orta. Do you remember what you did last night? Unbelievable. Yeah, you have to...
הם דתיים רק למעלה, למטה לא דתיים.
כן. רגע, אני רוצה... רק דבר קצר.
Hadron.
Yeah, hadron Allah chasechas hapoil. Hadron chasechas hapoil. Slikla Masechet Avodah Zarah.
החלק הלמעלה דתי.
Shav Zitzshav, yes. So I just want to end a couple of things. The Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim says, one takeaway from Masechet Avodah Zarah. The Rambam and Rashi Malachi, Perik Aleph Pasuk Yud Aleph. I don't have a Navi in front of me, but right here. Oh, Baruch Hashem. Malachi was the last of the Nevi'im. I want to read you a pasuk. This is unbelievable. You got to hear this pasuk in Malachi. A takeaway from Masechet Avodah Zarah. If you remember nothing else, remember this pasuk. Yeah? It's Malachi 1:11. Okay? Okay, the Rebbeinu Shalom says as follows. He says like this: Kim mizrach shemesh ve'ad mavoyai. From when the sun rises in the east till it sets in the west. Godol Shmi Bagoyim. My name, Hashem says, is great amongst the nations of the world. What do you mean amongst the nations of the world? They do Avodah Zarah. Says Malachi, unbelievable. Uvechol Makoy Muktar. And wherever they do Ketores to Avodah Zarah, Mugash L'Shmi. Who do they really have in mind? Me. Now what does this mean? Hashem says when a goy serves Avodah Zarah, it's really mugash l'shmi umincha tahira. There's a purity to that mincha, to that Avodah Zarah. Ki godol shmi bagoyim amar Hashem tzvakos. Rashi says in the Metzuda and all the Mefarshim, bepe echad, say what does this pasuk mean? What does the nevuah mean? The pasuk means Hashem says that what is Avodah Zarah? Avodah Zarah is the goyim, of course, believe in one God, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Of course, they believe. They don't believe that a Getchka created the world. You think they believe the Getchka created the world? You have to be stupid. Be crazy. Eitz ve'evan. That's what created the world, right? They call me the God of gods, right? Eloheinu Elohim. That's what Rashi says, which means they believe that I'm the ultimate creator. But what do they? Where are they mistaken? They believe they need an intermediary between me and them, and so they give a certain chashivos to the shemesh, to the yireach, right, to the maseicha, to the pesel, because they believe they need that to reach me.
The egel is up.
So kumtechois, the ganze chashivas that they apply to Avodah Zarah is because they want to be close to me, and they believe that they don't have direct contact with me, that I'm not mashgiach on every single person, right? And that's Avodah Zarah. Unbelievable. If you want to define Avodah Zarah, the Rambam in Nevuchim says, Avada, nobody ever believes that a table or a getchka created the world. Avada, God created the world, and there's no doubt about that. But Avodah Zarah is when you believe that Hashem is not mashgiach on every thought, every word, and every action in our lives. And you think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is distant, and we need intermediaries to reach Him. That's Avodah Zarah. And yet, says Hashem, still in all, what I see in Avodah Zarah is B'chol muktar mugash l'shmi. They mean me. That's what they have in mind because they want to get close to me. But the chiddush of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad of a Yid is you don't need intermediaries.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody else. Because Hashem is in direct contact with you.
Right.
So as we end Masechet Avodah Zarah, we take away that Avodah Zarah is terrible. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, even in the terrible Avodah Zarah, I see Mugash Lishmi. They're trying to get close to me. And yet, you don't need any intermediaries. That's our belief, and that's Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li.
So what's why